I give the state of California and the city of Los Angeles a lot of grief. But if there's one thing that the everyday person who doesn't live in this area would think, they care about their animals. So you see even a lot of actors and actresses that I don't politically agree with that are very passionate about animal welfare. Hey, there's abuse going on, like save the animals. I'm just flabbergasted that there's not more activism in a city that loves activism, that will burn Waymos for illegal aliens. They don't care that animals are being abused on Skid Row. The dogs, the dogs, the dogs, the dogs, the dogs. Yes, that is one of my primary concerns, especially in Los Angeles, especially on Skid Row. Now, listen, as much as Mayor Karen Bass and the rest of the leaders of that horrible, awful city tell you that the animals are not being abused on Skid Row, that everything is fine and dandy, that's obviously not the case. I want to dig into this, and I want to dig deep into this so you can get the real story. I know a lot of you are animal welfare advocates out there. I know that you care deeply about the welfare of animals, especially when they're in these dire conditions. So I have to bring in the absolute expert, somebody who actually goes out there, rescues dogs, sees all of this firsthand on a daily basis. Fellow starts with one today, animal rescuer and Road Mat Rider CEO, Joey Tuccio. I'm a follower of yours. I keep up on what you're doing. It's hard to see sometimes, but it's important to see. So I just talked about kind of the Starts With One Today mission to help the homeless people. But I want to hear from you about the conditions for the animals, particularly the dogs on Skid Row. I've done some commentary on it. We've been trying to get the word out as much as possible. One of my colleagues, Matt Finn, has gone with you to Skid Row to document some of this. But this is the first time I've actually had you kind of one-on-one to lay this out for my audience. What is it like for the dogs of Skid Row on a daily basis?
Yeah, well, first off, thank you and Matt for sharing the word. I mean, I guess maybe not unsurprisingly, there's not that much press about it in Los Angeles. People do like to sweep it under the rug. So thank you, honestly. You and Matt have been amazing for raising awareness. So I was just on Skid Row on Sunday, yesterday. I've been going to Skid Row for a few years. And we'll put it this way. We'll see a dog on Monday. They're dead on Friday. I started working on Skid Row on a volunteer basis with compassion, kind of foolishly, compassion towards people there, and trying to, build friendships with people and offering supplies and offering food and really trying to befriend them. But a year into it, I completely changed my perspective. It is hell. It's an economy for dogs. Is an economy for organizations that thrive on this chaos. The things I've seen on Skid Row, even just yesterday, I saw these two people fighting over a Frenchie with knives, and the Frenchie was being torn like left and right by the collar, and it's awful, and that's normal, and it's a shame. I go a little hard, so if I start going on tangents, let me know. But it's terrifying. We are getting zero support from Karen Bass and Newsom. Zero. In fact, what they're doing is they're saying that the dogs are not being neglected, but we've interviewed people in their programs saying that that is absolutely not the case. In fact, there was a guy just recently who is in one of those programs, and I'm trying not to get too mad or to cry, but his dog was dying on the sidewalk in front of one of these organizations that touts that they love dogs and bring your dogs in, will help. They refused to let him in with his dying dog. The dog died on the sidewalk. They wouldn't even give him a ride to a vet or anything. He had to pick up his dead dog, put it into a shopping cart, and walk miles to find help. It's insane. It makes me so mad that this is happening day in and day out for years. So in short, it's absolute hell.
Yeah, it certainly appears that way. I think there are probably more than one bucket here, but let's just say, for the sake of simplicity, there's two buckets. There are people there who are on Skid Row who have love for their animal, have love for their dog, but they don't have the resources to take care of it. And that dog is going to end up being neglected because of the fact that these people can barely take care of themselves, actually cannot take care of themselves. So that animal is certainly not going to get the support and the basic needs that it has. And then the other bucket, you have these people that are using the dogs. They're using them to fight. They're using them to breed and sell puppies. They're using them as target practice. And they're just evil, horrible people who are abusing animals. Would that be fair to say that it's kind of a divide between those two groups?
It's a divide. Sadly, I would say it's more on the latter. 9 out of 10 people that we see there with dogs have full intention of breeding their dogs or are currently breeding their dogs. And they'll breed the dogs, 7 puppies, 5 will be dead instantly, 2 will be sold. And also to be real, it's not just them selling dogs to other people in Los Angeles. They'll sell dogs to each other. A Frenchie on Skid Row, an unaltered Frenchie on Skid Row, can go for $10,000. So the idea that these, a lot of the people there are homeless and have no money, I say that's not true. There's a lot of economy on Skid Row. There's also people that don't live on Skid Row that are criminals that come on Skid Row. They do their business because they know that they will not be arrested. There will be no violation against them because Karen Bass has made it super clear to all the police and to animal control that the rules for the people on Skid Row are different than the rules that we have to face. So they can get away with certain things, which is blatant animal abuse. We can't, granted, most of us wouldn't anyway, but they're being told by Karen, leave them alone, don't touch them. When I'm seeing these criminals selling dogs, beating dogs. We rescued a dog, one of our first rescues, where this guy was beating his dog over the head with a Hennessy bottle and throwing acid on the dog because he wanted the dog to fight and he wouldn't. So he just discarded the dog. Normal. That's a Tuesday on Skid Row. And again, no support from anybody. And in fact, the thing that gets me so mad in terms of like the people that do want to help their dogs, going back to the guy that his dog died recently on the streets, he was promised so many things from these organizations, and he had money, and he said, no, they said, we'll take care of it. So he ended up paying bills instead. And just when the surgery was about to happen, they said, oh, actually, we don't have the funding anymore. Sorry. And this was a dog that had giant mass coming out of his mouth to the point that the dog couldn't eat anymore. And so we had to step in and we had to fundraise and clean up the mess. And a few months later, he unfortunately died.
Wow. Well, and you bring up a good point, and I know that you guys have been efforting to get this in front of Mayor Karen Bass, not because she's not aware, but because she doesn't care. And unless there's public pressure, she's not going to care. Everyone well knows how I feel about Mayor Karen Bass for a number of reasons, but this included. And I know that you guys have efforted as well when she's had Q&As on local media to get this in front of her, so she has to answer for it. Her answers have been non-answers. She either says that things are being done or she dismisses that there's a problem whatsoever. But I think you bring up a good point as well about the law enforcement. And I'm often on your page and I'm reminding people, there are a lot of people that are like, the police don't care. Well, I don't know the particular police officers that are down there. I don't know what their moral compass is. However, I would say this. I know a lot of police and law enforcement in Los Angeles, and whether it's trying to stop animal abuse, trying to stop human abuse, trying to stop drugs, trying to stop homelessness, trying to stop, whatever nefarious activity. There are a lot of police officers that just feel maxed out because they're not getting the support. And they can arrest somebody, but they're going to be back out in 5 minutes. And so there's a lot of low morale for the law enforcement officers that maybe would like to do something, but don't feel empowered to do something. So when you're confronted with this and you're trying to call animal control, you're trying to call LAPD or somebody to say, this is animal abuse, this is neglect, this is illegal breeding. What is the response that you're getting from them? And what do people need to know about the overall culture of lawlessness surrounding this area?
Sure. Let me start by mentioning Karen Bass. I've lived in LA for many years. I've been very active on Skid Row for a few years. Karen Bass is a liar. She is a liar. Anybody in animal rescue will say the same thing. what she is doing is not only lying, she is painting a picture that the dogs are okay, which means that people aren't going to go to Skid Row because our leader is saying that everything's fine. I pray that people will don't go to West Hollywood on a Sunday, put that espresso martini down, drive to Skid Row and drive around, and you will see firsthand what's going on. So first off, Karen Bass, you are a liar and you're doing more bad than good. But in terms of like the breeding on Skid Row, what'll happen is, or any abuse or anything, we'll call the police. They can't do anything. They say, call animal control. We'll call animal control. They will most likely not come. The police will say 1 out of every 10 times to call animal control, the animal control will come. 1 out of every 10 times. And the other 9 times, the dog is probably dead at this point. I do agree that it's not LAPD Central's fault. We've done a couple of protests, and we've done it in front of LAPD Central, not because we're blaming them, but we know, or we're hoping, maybe naively, that will apply pressure for them to go to Karen Bass and be like, look, this is getting insane. You have to let us do our job. We protested in front of Karen Bass's mansion. It did absolutely nothing. So we're trying different tactics. Hopefully it works. Maybe it won't. It probably won't. But in terms of like what animal control does, in fact, recently there was a dog on Skid Row that we've been trying to get for a while. This dog has been abused. This dog has been neglected. This dog has been in cages with no shade, no water, in the direct sun for months. For months. We finally had animal control, the police, and the deputy animal cruelty coordinator. They went. The deputy control officer said, I don't see anything wrong. Meanwhile, the dog's ears are hanging off, and the dog is living with rats in his kennel on the streets. So it's very much an idea of they want to keep the facade up that Los Angeles is great, Los Angeles is healthy, Los Angeles is doing great. They also don't want to remove dogs from Skid Row because there are organizations on Skid Row that are saying, if anybody touches your dog, no matter what you're doing, let us know and we're going to sue them. Because they thrive off the chaos. We were working with a company, one of Mayor Bass's company, Inside Safe, and not working with, but like kind of collaborating with like the caseworkers there. And we removed a few dogs that were left in their apartments for weeks with no food or water. And it just so happened that the caseworker was like, what's going on in there? And they go inside and they remove the dog. Now, the second thing, this is where I stopped working with them, is that they called me up and said, hey, this person's abusing their dog. This person is attacking their dog. And I said, okay, well, let's remove the dog. And then they called back later and said, oh, actually, they're going to keep the dog. I'm like, keep the dog? Wait, that's insane. We have to remove the dog. Their response is, you're racist.
Oh,
I'm like, you're the one who called me. You're the one who called me for help. First of all, I don't even know what race this person is. Second, what does that have to do with anything? It's so mind-boggling. And it is the sensitivity of they don't want people to kind of be to be villainized, to remove dogs from people that are, underserved or, of a certain race. My response is, I don't care what the person's race is. I don't care if they're a millionaire. I don't care if they have $1. If they are abusing dogs, they have to be removed. Stop with the excuses.
It's so wild to me that in a city of Los Angeles, in the state of California, I give the state of California and the city of Los Angeles a lot of grief for a lot of things, right? But if there's one thing that the everyday person who doesn't live in this area would think, is that they care about their animals. I mean, the culture in LA, you would think they would care so much about dogs. You see even a lot of actors and actresses that I don't politically agree with that are very passionate about animal welfare. And I would think that they would be the first ones to rattle some cages, so to speak, about, hey, there's abuse going on, like save the animals. And I'm just flabbergasted that there's not more activism in a city that loves activism, that will burn Waymos for illegal aliens. They don't care that animals are being abused on Skid Row.
They don't care. If you're not from Los Angeles, you might be thinking, oh, Skid Row is probably like miles away from civilization and whatever. Skid Row is 15 minutes away from Beverly Hills. Skid Row is 15 minutes away from Beverly Hills. That's insane. I barely go out, but when I do, I question like how many of these people going to Craig's on Melrose or going to, certain bars, like, are they even aware that 15 minutes away from them, there's a child taking a bath in a sewer? Do they even know that 15 minutes away from them, there is a dog that might be taking their last breath on Skid Row? And when I talk to people, sometimes they don't know, sometimes they don't care. So it's very hypocritical. And I do hope that more people in LA, when they watch this and they learn about what's going on, don't listen to what Karen Bass is saying. Go yourself. And also don't listen to me when I'm saying. Go yourself. You can see it and see it with your own eyes and make your own opinions.
Couple things here as well, because a lot of people that do know there's a problem, they say, well, the shelters are already overcrowded, so what do we do with these dogs? Well, you take the dogs, there's no room in the shelters are a mess. That's a whole other problem, by the way. There's a lot of abuse going on in the shelter system. There's a lot of people that are working for these county animal shelters that do not care about dogs. I know, because I went to one of them to try to foster a dog when I lived in Los Angeles. They could not have been worse to me. They could not have been more rude to me. They could not have been less accommodating to me. I wanted to foster a dog to help save space in that shelter. They could not have made it harder. They could not have been more nasty. And I was like, I see these dogs in these kennels that, by the way, don't get out for weeks. They're in their own filth. And I'm like, I want to be able to do something. They make it damn near impossible. And now I know that there are a lot of rescues. I donate to a lot of them that do a lot of good work. They pull dogs. Thank God for you all. But what do you say to those that are like, well, we can't take the dogs off Skid Row because there's no room in the shelter?
So what we need on Skid Row is this. We need the caseworkers, animal control, LAPD Central, and animal rescues to work together in harmony, hopefully harmony. And we all need to know what's going on. We have to target the areas or the dogs that need to be removed. We need permission from animal control to remove the dogs. And then the animal rescues, and the caseworkers too. The caseworkers see what's going on inside the places, inside, where we can't see. And we get calls from them almost weekly about dogs that are, I won't go into detail, but we will remove the dogs. So instead of the dogs just going to the shelters, we have resources and we have a decent amount of animal rescue groups that will take the dog from the shelter to fosters. We just removed 2 dogs yesterday. One was a Chihuahua that had bite marks all over his body. Infected. The owner was screaming at the dog, I think singing a song. I'm not really sure, but doing something. So we removed the dog. The second dog was a German Shepherd that was chained outside with no shade rather, for weeks. When we touched the dog was so hot, you could barely touch the dog. So we rescued that dog too. So the dogs don't have to go right to the shelter. In fact, we don't necessarily want the dogs to go right to the shelter. What we need is, and sometimes the only reason why they have to is the rare times that animal control does come, they have to go right to the shelter first. What I'm saying is we should all work together and we should pinpoint which dogs are being abused. We need to get the green light to get and remove the dogs. And then we could find homes for them without them even going to the shelter. It's to me, it's mind boggling because there are solutions. We have opportunities to spay and neuter dogs for free that the government doesn't have to pay a dime, but they don't want to listen to it. And the only thing I can think of is that they love the chaos.
Well, they love the chaos. It's an economy, a homeless industrial complex, if you will. But if I'm hearing you correctly, what would solve a lot of these problems? Simple law and order, enforcing the law. If they would allow police officers, animal control, whoever's got the jurisdiction to come in and be like, yes, this deadbeat degenerate tweaker is abusing their dog. We're taking the dog. We're going to call up Joey. Joey, place this dog. Boom. But when you don't enforce the law, I'm sure, because you've told me about it, you've got people that you're like, listen, can I take your dog? I will take care of the dog. And they're like, no, pay me. And they don't want $5. They want $3,000. And so they've learned that people like you and people like me will do anything to save these dogs from abuse. So it's become an economy for these people because the laws are not enforced. So they can get away with that because if no one's telling them that they can't do it, they can make some money off of it. So why would they stop? If I'm hearing you correctly, it sounds like a lot of this goes back to a culture of lawlessness that is running rampant in LA.
It is, I mean, 1,000%. There is such a terror of people enforcing laws because they don't want to be yelled at on Twitter, or they don't want to be yelled at and be like, "You, how dare you take this person's dog?" And it's like, you don't understand. This person has been abusing, and not all of them, of course, but this person has been abusing this dog for a very long time. There's somebody on Skid Row that is notorious, and I mean notorious, for dog abuse and dog fighting. He's still there. He's been arrested 7 times in 2 years. He still does his business on Skid Row. Now, if I was a person with power, I would say, next time you go to jail, you're going to jail for a very long time. Second, you're never allowed to be back here. But they don't do that. In fact, what I see is police officers shaking the hands of these people because I don't know if it makes them seem cool or whatever, or they're trying to appease the fact that you can't get anybody mad. And I think that's what it really comes down to.
Yeah, the city of love and compassion, right? Nothing compassionate about letting degenerates and tweakers go and ruin the community for everybody else. I know there's compassion for these people. There are people that are addicted, that are down on their luck, that are in a spiral, and I feel for them, and I feel for their position, and I certainly don't envy it. However, I'm one of those people that believes that tough love can go a long way, and that you don't get to ruin the quality of life for everybody else just because you want to aid and abet somebody's criminal behavior. So
1,000%. And I think that when people go into these programs that promises the world, they go in, they're thrown into a room, and that's the end of it. It's like, that doesn't solve anything. You have to they have to mandate classes for them. They have to mandate certain things and not just be like, "Oh, I really, really hope that you don't do this again." It's like, no, if you do it again, you're going to get in trouble. It's wild. And I know that some people have the mindset like you can't force people out of addiction. I don't have addiction, so I can't speak on that. But what I do see is the same people over and over and over again, going on Skid Row and going back into drugs. So whatever they're doing now is not working.
Yeah. Unfortunately, the compassionate folks that lead LA and California believe that allowing someone to just be addicted to drugs and on the street shooting up every day, that's the compassionate way to be. And listen, if someone wants to ruin their own damn life, but you're not going to abuse animals. That's where I draw the line. And that's where, and people, "Oh, you care more about the dogs." You caught me. I mean, shoot, I'm sorry. That's true. Correct. Because that animal did nothing to put themselves in that position.
Nothing. And in fact, with the drugs, we've rescued dogs that OD'd on drugs. We had to, and unfortunately, one did not make it. And that's just the ones that we know. So, I mean, to your point, it's like, yeah, if you want to do drugs, if you want to do that, fine, go into your apartment and do it. But do us a favor, don't get a dog. Let the dogs go elsewhere. But for now, don't get a dog until you better yourselves and figure it out. It's not going to better anybody.
You're exactly right. Joey, where can my audience go to support your efforts, to follow what you're doing, and hopefully get the word out?
So Starts With One Today is our Instagram. So please check that. My Instagram is just Joey Tuccio, I think, Tuccio. If you do go to my page, you will just see sad pictures of dogs. Sorry. But the last thing I want to say is this. I want to kind of circle back to the beginning is I am very grateful that you and Matt are spreading awareness for it, because nothing is more kind of disheartening when I go down there and there's nobody else there helping. Yeah. And it's like, you kind of be like, what's the point? Like, this is insane. We're battling a $500 million economy that's thriving off this. So thank you for fighting the fight.
We have to. We got to keep it up. We got to do whatever we can. And I can't imagine seeing the things that you see. I don't know if I have it in me, to be honest with you. I don't know if I do. So you have a lot of strength.
I would never take you to Skid Row because you would rip them apart.
Well, the problem is I would take the dogs. The problem is that I would get arrested because I would take the dogs.
I do want you to come with me. You would be a badass.
I mean, I'm telling you, because I there's just nothing. I would go to jail and I would be okay with it. Like that's me. That's how psycho I am about dogs. I'm sure you're the same way, but that's for me. Like I would go there in the middle of the night with a van, and I would load up the dogs and I would be gone, and that would be it. And you wouldn't see a trace of me. I would end up in jail for it. So that's why I can't go, but I would do it.
I love it.
And if I ever come back to LA, well, listen, we're working with our friends, of course, at Fox News, our correspondents out there, Bill Malhusian and Matt Finn. They're very aware of the issue. They're on top of it. We're working hard to get this national coverage. So stick with us. Thank you for everything that you do. God bless you. And, I'll keep amplifying as much as I can.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. Thanks,
Joey. Folks, that does it for this episode of Tomi Lahren is Fearless. Please do go and check on all those social media profiles. Sometimes it's depressing. Sometimes it makes me cry. But it's stuff you need to see because we need to make a difference. I can tell you this, the government in California, they're not going to do jack. So it's up to us. Starts with one today. Go follow Joey. Let's save some people. Let's save some dogs. Make sure to watch this show on Outkick, of course, Fox Nation, YouTube at Tomi Lahren is Fearless. From Nashville, God bless and take care. Hey, thanks for watching. For more of my hottest takes, must-see conversations, and of course, my final thoughts, click right here. And don't forget to subscribe. Just click right here so you never miss a beat. I will be here every weekday, and I hope you'll join me.